Welcome to the first episode of our newest segment, Check Out My Buns, where we make buns and other baked goodies. This time we're going to be making hot cross buns. So we'll start out with measuring 150 millilitres of milk into a jug. And as you can see by the grey marker, that's about the same amount of milk that Dan's dad adds into his porridge in the mornings. You can use any milk, but to be honest I've used whole milk here. It will give the buns a fuller flavour. Next I'm going to be adding unsalted butter. Now I'm going to be measuring out about 25 grams here. The reason it's unsalted is because it will make the buns less salty and also react to the yeast better. Quick baking lesson: you never want your yeast to come into direct contact with salt. It will kill off the yeast, so we always try and keep those two separate. So I'm going to add my milk into a saucepan. We're just going to start to boil that milk. Just going to make sure that we keep stirring it all the time so it doesn't burn the bottom. And quickly take the milk off the heat when it's ready so you don't cause an accident like I nearly did here. We'll get our butter. And we're just going to pour that in. We're just going to melt that butter until all the lumps are gone. It'll take a few minutes, just be patient. Pour the whole mixture back into the jug. We want the liquid to be about room temperature, so that's enough that you can pop your finger into it without burning it off. That's about 30 degrees for any lucky people with access to a thermometer. Right now this is quite clearly way too hot, so we'll leave it on the side and do something else in the meantime. Peel an apple and core it and chop it up into small pieces. Now I really wish I had video to show you here, but unfortunately my phone ran out of storage space, so it didn't save anything, me chopping the apple up, so you're just going to have to believe I did that. And also I'm pretty sure you've all seen an apple being cut before. I'm just going to add some lemon juice to that just to stop it from going brown. Now in a bowl I've got about 250 grams of bread flour, and I'm just going to add about 25 grams of sugar. It doesn't really matter what sugar you use. I've used just granulated, and I've used wholemeal bread flour because we're currently going through a bit of a flour shortage, so I'm just using what I've got in the cupboard. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt in. It's about half a teaspoon. I'm going to add that onto one side of the bowl, so I picked the left hand side. And also going to add some yeast. Now I've used dried active easy bake yeast. It's just the easiest thing in the world. You just pop it in and go. And note how I'm adding the yeast to the right hand side where I added the salt to the left hand side. Again, I don't want those two to mix because if the yeast is in direct contact with the salt too early, that yeast is just going to be killed off. We're going to have no rise. So I'm going to mix the yeast in on the right first, mix the salt in on the left next, and then the whole thing can come together because that salt's now been coated in a layer of flour, so that's fine. I'm going to add some rapeseed oil, it's about a teaspoon maybe. You're supposed to add sunflower, but I didn't have that. My milky mix is a bit too cool, but it's about 30 degrees, so I reckon it'll be alright. So I'm just going to pour that in. 30 degrees is about the optimum temperature you want for yeast to start reacting. And I whisked up an egg earlier, and I'm just going to add about half of that egg in. I'm just going to scoop that in and guesstimate that there. We will be using the rest of the egg later, so don't panic. nothing gets wasted. And the egg is just going to go back in the fridge there for now. I've also popped that apple back in the fridge as well, just so it doesn't dry out. So you're going to stir the whole thing together. It will come together, just got to be a bit patient. It'll be sticky enough to grab a bits on the side of the bowl. And I'm just going to pull that out onto an unfloured surface. Now this might seem a bit controversial, and I see in a lot of recipes, pull this out onto a floured surface. This is a bread mix. The minute you do that, you're going to dry that mix out. You're going to add flour into it, and we don't want a dry mix. And the rice is going to be so much better if it's wetter. You're going to get so many more air bubbles. So I'm going to roll that into a sausage when I'm happy. I've kneaded it for about 5 minutes. Grab the ends, flip them under, and I'm just going to roll it into a ball so all the seams are underneath, and pop that back in the bowl. We're going to put some cling film over that bad boy. You could use a damp cloth or a damp tea towel, either one's fine. And I didn't leave this in a warm room, I just left it on the side. So that's been rising for about an hour, so I can take that off. This is the first of 3 rises. Take the cling film off. We'll be using the cling film later, so keep it to one side. I'm going to take that out of the bowl and just put it on the side for now. Now I've added, you can add as much fruit as you like. I've added about 90 grams of mixed dried fruit. And I've just poured my apple in there as well, just for good measure. So that's about 175 grams I've added, just for reference. So you're going to press all that air out. I know we've spent all that time making it rise, but we're going to just push all the air out, prepare ourselves for our second rise. So I'm adding my favourite spices. I'm adding about half a teaspoon of ginger. Again, you can add anything you want. And I'm going to add my favourite, which is ground cinnamon. I love cinnamon. Cinnamon and apple is the best. And I've just added about a teaspoon in. Now, in hindsight, I probably would have added this in a bit sooner, but I was following the recipe that I've put in the link. And this is when it said to add it. I probably would have added it much earlier for a deeper flavour. I'm just going to add that fruit in as well. And I'm going to attempt very poorly to turn it into a burrito. Oh dear. The dough was very stretchy at this point, and I was very worried that it was all going to be very dry. The recipe required me to knead it for about 5 minutes. I thought, oh my god, this isn't going to come together. Look at this mess. Oh my god. I had fruit flying everywhere. But I stuck to the rules. I kneaded it, pushed through, and yes, again, I managed to get it into some semblance of the dough with fruit in. No, I think that will do. Very nice. So I'll pop that back in the bowl. And once again, cover that over with cling film, and I left that to rise for another hour. Excellent. So at this point, you're going to weigh out your dough. This is the point where we start working out how many pieces we want to divide this into, how many buns we want in total. Now I like to try and keep my buns fairly even, so I'm going to divide it into 8. After some heavy maths, I finally worked out that was about 78.5 grams each. Now for each piece here, what I'm doing is I'm just flattening it out again, and I'm rolling it into a cigar, and once again folding the sides under, keeping all the creases at the bottom, and just moulding into a ball. And I'll just place that on the baking tray. And then I'm going to do the exact same for all the others. Now, not all the weights here were exactly the same, but they were reasonably accurate. I'm going to just cover that back over again with the same piece of cling film is fine. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a greenhouse effect and leave it for another hour. So this has risen quite nicely, and I'm just going to pop the oven on to 200 degrees. Meanwhile, we can start focusing on the decoration. So I'm going to take about 35 grams of self-raising flour, measure that out into a bowl. And just going to take some water. Now, there was no exact measurement here for the amount of water, but as you can see, I'm just going to stir it until it's a consistency where it's spreadable. So I actually went back for a little bit more water. What you're looking for is a putty kind of texture, something that resembles wall filler, as Dan put it. There you go, you can see it's quite stringy, quite flexible, a bit like icing, but still holding its shape. Remember that egg we had earlier? Nothing goes to waste here, so we're just going to grab that. And we're going to grab our whole milk, or whatever kind of milk you've got. And once again, no measurements, just a dash of milk. I'm going to get a brush and just mix that together. Now that's going to be the glaze. We want them to be nice and shiny when they come out. Unveil the buns. Don't they look beautiful? They have risen very nicely. And now it's time to, very poorly, because this is the first time I've ever tried doing this, attempt to spread on something that looks like a cross. Oh my, this is not going well. Using just a spoon, it was enough to make that mixture cling on, so that's good. I'm just going to pop my egg glaze on as well now, just in all those crevices. Nothing got wasted here, nothing at all. Absolutely beautiful. Another holy of holy will go in the oven to bake. Our oven's ready, our buns are ready. It's time to shut the door. So I'm going to follow the instructions that I've been given, which say 20 minutes. I think this is a bit long, but we're going with it. They're done. Bring out the contenders. I'll just bring them over here. And I've got a cooling rack ready as well, just to put them on the side. Now they are going to be extremely hot because you've got burning hot fruit in there, and fruit is hotter than the sun. So we'll just pop them all onto the wire rack ready to be cooling. Very nice. It looks so shiny. And now it's time to find a willing victim to try them. Maybe someone who's working who needs a little break.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you want to try one?
Yeah, thank you. I thought these were the ones that you'd got out of a packet.
Did you?
Hmm.
The wholemeal ones.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Out of 10.
8?
Yeah.
What would make them better? I've not eaten them yet.
Probably a bit sweeter.
A bit sweeter. I'm gonna try one. Hold on. I agree with you. Maybe a little bit sweeter. And a little bit less time in the oven, maybe?
Maybe.
I'll take that.
Huh? Maybe they're a bit dairy slightly, but... I suppose it's a whole new...
I did it for what the instructions said. So there you have it. I think if I did this again, I'd probably have left them in the oven less time. I'd have added the spices much earlier on before the first proof, and I'd have probably poured maybe 30 grams of sugar into it just because it was a little bit, it wasn't sweet enough. But to be perfectly honest, they're pretty tasty, and I'm off now to enjoy a nice cup of tea. I know it's past Easter when I release this, but to be quite frank, my family are eating these bad boys all the way through summer, so they're never going to go to waste now. I know how to do the recipe. I think overall a great result. I'm actually really pleased. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please consider giving us a like, and to see more of our adventures, please subscribe and check out our other videos.